We are faced with another emergency. Many are not seeing it, but we are seeing it clearly. And we are, by this broadcast, inviting everybody to put aside whatever they were thinking and look closely at it to see where this election that has already gone to fiasco is heading. We recall that Ninas did everything humanly possible to get Nigeria not to proceed to elections 2023 under the repudiated 1999 Constitution, the fraud of 1999. Many refuse to listen. They say, oh, we have democracy. Our democracy is growing. You are building democracy on a foundation of apartheid. Now, the election has come and gone, and there is no outcome from that election that can become basis of assumption of governmental power and authority on the 29th of May in 2023. You can take that to the bank. Why do I say so? The one that's been declared winner is deficient in a constitutional requirement of 25% of the votes from the capital territory, the federal capital territory, Abuja. INEC cannot help that. The court cannot help that. Nobody, that mandate is deficient, fundamentally deficient, defective, fundamentally you can't salvage it. What should have happened if INEC wanted to get to an outcome from that election? Would have been to, get to the next either runoff between the first two. But that's not the emergency we are reporting. You will recall that in April of 2022, almost 1 year ago, Ninas had raised an alarm that indications had emerged that those who are inviting you to election are actually working out, how the election will be sabotaged and derailed to an outcome. Of all possibilities for what will happen from this election that has collapsed, the closest, the one first in the line for who will be president by the close of day on 29th of May is the one that is in office now, Buhari. On account of Section 135 of the 1999 Constitution that defines the tenure of office, 4 years you may think, but like all the other frauds in that Constitution, the 4 years defined or referred to in subsection 2 of that section 135 is made subject to subsection 1 that lists 4 alternative conditions, one of which must happen for you to reckon 4 years. That means, yes, 4 years, provided one of these in subsection 1 happens. Let's go to the broadcast where we raised this alarm in April of 2022. We'll take like 2 minutes from it, so you can hear the alarm we raised about the plan to derail the election, to collapse in such a manner that those who are running the election will then fall back to Section 135 to keep the president in office. Because that's what that section was, the language of that section was intended to keep Abacha as life president. Abacha was not there to take advantage of it, and it's still sitting there. And they all know that it's there. And that's why they have run the election in the manner that has produced this kind of outcome in which you think they are making mistakes. It was not for nothing that Mahmoud asked everybody to go to court, knowing fully well that there's a requirement of the Constitution that has not been satisfied by the one he was going to declare winner. Let's take those 2 minutes. The danger we are alerting the country to right now is that a trap has been set in the electoral process itself, in which whatever happens, whatever those who want to derail the election, we suspect there's a plan to derail the election itself in order to land everybody in a situation where election is not going on. And Section 135, let the lawyers in Nigeria listen carefully. Most of us think that 4 years is the fixed tenure of the president. Section 135 of the Constitution of this fraudulent Constitution of Nigeria leaves a leeway that can alter that 4 years legitimately. And we suspect at this time, and that's the reason for the alarm we are raising now, we suspect that those who want to hold on to power for all times, the caliphate that wants to continue their conquest march by all means, are plotting to derail the election that is, that is stated. Yes, we want the election suspended so that we can go and sort out the constitutional basis that is damaged. That's a different subject matter from pretending you are going to election, but setting booby traps that will truncate the election in the middle of the conduct, so that you can now fall back on that provision to assume martial powers. We remember in 2020, some few months ago, we all remember the leaked memo of the Malami addressed to his principal, the Buhari, for how they could suspend the constitution and assume martial powers. We suspect that they want to set up things that will play out in such a way that the election suffers a heavy setback at the wrong time, so that they can fall into the provision, they can have a recourse to the provision of Section 135 that could alter the 4 years you thought was the tenure of the president. That 4 years, to let us know, like all the other frauds in the Constitution, the 4 years indicated as the tenure of office in Section 135 leaves a back, it is made conditional to something that is not in anybody else's control than the people organizing the election. So that if they derail something around the election, it will mean that the journey has become inconclusive, and therefore they can draw the powers from that section that can be higher than the powers they have now. That is where we suspect they are going. And that is why we are raising this alarm, for everybody to know that it is possible for them to rely on these booby traps to set up the confusion that will enable them extend that tenure of 4 years to whatever they like. From what we see now, and from what you can read in that Section 135, you see it is in 3 subsections. In the first part, it lists for it says the tenure of the president will be terminated when, upon the occurrence of, I'm just paraphrasing, upon the occurrence of any of these. You see that the first one there is when the successor takes oath of office. That's the number one. That's the number one of the conditions that will terminate the tenure of office that is reckoned at 4 years in subsection 2. Then the second alternative, that's either that or the president dies. Thank goodness. Our president has not died, so he's still there, he's in office. The third one is resigning. He hasn't resigned. Then the fourth one is removal from office by impeachment. So these are 4 alternate conditions for computing tenure of office. And so, since he has not been removed from office, that's D, and he has not resigned, and he's not dead, there's only one ground left at this time to terminate that that term that's supposed to be 4 years. That is, that the successor is sworn into office. Now, elections has happened. There are 3 claimants. One has been declared, with constitutional deficiency, quite apart from the legal deficiency in not transmitting election results from, the place of voting. But the constitutional deficiency of not having 25% in the Federal Capital Territory. That's the one that has been declared the winner. We're not talking about drug and other offenses flying in the air. Then PDP says, oh, we won. They've gone to court. Then, of course, the one that actually won the election, which everybody saw, but whose votes were, reassigned. So there are three claimants. But looking at the date we are now, we're at the close of March, there's nothing the tribunal or the Supreme Court will do, to rectify the situation that will deliver, somebody being sworn in on the 29th of May. Because since the one that is declared is so grossly deficient, will the tribunal or the Supreme Court say, waive that requirement? No, they're not in a position to. So let's get it very clear that the mandate on the table, the one declared, cannot be on account of that. If they go for a runoff, he could be one of the two that will go to runoff. If they say rerun, they will still run again. But as for relying on what happened on 25th of February as basis of a presidential mandate or assumption of power, we can rule that out. And then what happens? Whatever the tribunal says, whether it cancels the election as some of the two frontline parties, pray them to, or the other a runoff between the first two. There's no way INEC is going to be able to print 93 million ballot papers for another election that will be conducted and outcome delivered 29th of May, such that somebody is sworn in on the 29th of May. I'm just trying to let us know that there's no possibility of any of these three people contending, laying claim to the presidency, being sworn in on that day, just because of what we've heard, the deficiency of one that's already declared, and what it would take to get to, coronating any of the other two, because you have to sort out something somewhere, either a runoff or a rerun or some kind of exercise, which is no longer possible to do and conclude between now and end of May. That brings us to where a necessity has already arisen, except we're not thinking, for some kind of interim arrangement to carry through. But that's where the danger, that is the purpose of this broadcast, lies. By the provision of that section 135 of the Constitution, as you have seen, a sitting president that doesn't want to hand over power can derail the election and take advantage of that section and remain in office. Buhari is going to remain in office, except we stand up now and do what can be done to take that constitution out of the way, so that that power is not there to be drawn when they get to where they own that portion of their game, because that's where they're going. They've deliberately derailed the election, and they're waiting just a bit of time to take advantage of that provision and continue in office. That is what that's our reading of the situation. And we're not just saying it now. We said it when we saw the first signs of it, or the way they were going towards the election. It was clear to us they had other plans. They were setting booby traps. We listed anybody who goes to that, anybody who wants to verify what we're saying should go to view the full video. It's titled, The Fate of Nigeria Will Be Determined on the Bridge to 2023 Election. I repeat, the fate of Nigeria will be determined on the bridge to 2023 election. That's a YouTube title. You go and look at it so you can see what Nina said almost 1 year before this imbroglio we're in now, before this fiasco we now have to manage. But our people will not listen. Our people think they know what they don't know. Ask all those senior advocates that are jumping from one TV house to the other. Ask all those professors of law that are running their mouth all over the place whether this provision, this section 135, does not place Buhari as the one to carry on in office in the face of what has happened with this election that they mismanaged deliberately. That's what we suspect. Except some superior logic or some facts that are not known to us are brought. The ones we have seen, the facts we have seen, and our interpretations of it, brought us to that conclusion in April of 2022 that this is intended to land in so outcome. That's where we are now. And so, what to do? What to do? Let us bear in mind, let us remember that there's a Fulani conquest agenda that is very much in flight. I mean, it's ongoing. We remember we told us that the election 2023 was a decoy, just something to distract all the other people while they carry on with their plan. Their plan A is that conquest. And so they require, power. They must be in power to carry on with what they are doing. And they have all kinds of plans to remain in power. Either they win the election or they, play this kind of game, derail the election, assume the powers are granted already. So it will be by operation of law. He's not going to discuss with anybody or require anybody's permission to do, or even National Assembly permission to do anything. No. On this occasion, if nobody is sworn in, if nobody is available to be sworn in on account of what has gone wrong with the election on the 29th of May, by operation of law, Buhari will remain in office. And there's no indication for how long that could be. For those who will say, oh, it cannot be 6 months. No, that's in subsection 3, talking about if the country is at war or some other extraordinary emergency, National Assembly will approve 6 months at a time, the extension of term of president. That's in subsection 3. Section 135 has 3 subsections. The subsection 1 lists those 4 conditions, alternative conditions, by which you compute the 4 years referred to in subsection 2. Subsection 3 is where they were not talking about if the country is at war and the election is not feasible to carry through, that National Assembly can extend 6 months at a time the tenure of a sitting president. That's subsection 3. That one at least has some indication of if not on this date, then on the next date. You can begin to calculate that 6 months is 6 months. But in this other one, in the one that can happen between subsection 1 and subsection 2, in which there's nobody sworn in, available to be sworn in on the date listed, the first person on the racetrack, the one in the first position to step in, into that power, is the sitting president. What we must do now, if we want to avoid that possibility, looming eventuality, that plan that's already almost delivered, is to take out that constitution ahead of when that power is drawn. How can we do that? NINAS, by his constitutional force majeure proclamation of December 16, 2020, listed 5 demands that have now become propositions and even agenda. That is, whether the government comes along or not, the owners of Nigeria already decided what they're going to do. And so, what we have to do now is to insist that the Constitution of Nigeria, like we have seen, is the problem. The unitary Constitution of Nigeria is the reason the election has gone the way it's gone. It's because of that centralized control that we saw all of people sitting in Abuja and printing PVC for the whole country, or issuing a BVA that will work or not work across the country, organizing logistics the way we saw. So is that constitution that has brought us to everything that has gone wrong right now. So why can't, if that constitution is responsible for what we have seen, it's responsible for the corruption we have been crying about, it's responsible for the impunity we see, is responsible for the infrastructural decay that has consumed the society, is responsible for everything you can point, the electricity that you've not had, the roads that are not there, and the gross inequity, systemic injustice we have seen. If that constitution is the reason Nigeria is upside down, why can't we even now accept that election is not the solution, and that it is transition in place of election. Of course, the election of 2023 is still ongoing until an outcome that is no longer in controversy emerges. So don't let nobody think that the election has passed, because if tribunals say, oh, go and do it again, you are still at it. No winner. If there was no challenge for the one that was declared, of course, we could be saying, no, election has been done. But you can see the kind of challenge, very fundamental. And so we come to what we do is let everybody who is concerned enough stand up and join in saying that Ninas is right, constitution is the problem, transition now. We must go to that transition now. Let all of those who are going to fight over tenure, mandate recovery, because mandate is recovered, you swear to defend and uphold that constitution. You go to rerun, it ends up with that constitution. You go to runoff, it ends up with that constitution, because the winner will have to swear to defend and uphold that, governed by that constitution. And so the choice we can make now is to stand up and say election will not solve this problem, whether the one that's been done before or the one that will be done again in terms of rerun or runoff. Let us go to transition. And the purpose of that transition is to be expressly defined before initiating it. That is to say, for the sole purpose of reworking the damaged constitutional basis of Nigeria. No other purpose will be tolerated. Because somebody may say, oh, we do interim government so that INEC can go and rectify what is left. Others will say, oh, we do interim government so that we can go government of national unity, all kinds of nonsense. The only purpose that can stand is for the purpose of reworking the damaged constitutional basis of Nigeria, the same way we saw South Africa, jettison apartheid in 1990 and went into a meeting they called Kodesha to rework the basis of the South African society. That's what we need to do now. That's what we have to go to transition to do. If anybody is inviting anybody to any other kind of transition or interim arrangement, because of whatever, the outcome of 2023 presidential election is irredeemable. That's it. It's bad beyond redemption. Therefore, on the 29th of May, nobody will be there available to be sworn in. An arrangement has to be made. By operation of law, if no other arrangement is made, and that is where your power lies, to demand that that arrangement be made. And what Ninas has on the table is the most comprehensive, the most viable framework and strategy for addressing this issue that has arisen. Because if we don't stand up and press it and get it done, by operation of law, Buhari will remain in office without having to talk to anybody else by what the Constitution stipulates. Just like the Constitution says, if the president is not available or is not able to carry on or is dead, the vice president carries on in that office. The transmission of power to Buhari will be by operation of Section 135 of the Constitution. If there's any lawyer in Nigeria, by whatever designation, that wishes to have a debate on this matter, I challenge the TV houses to bring them so that we can teach them in the open. All of them have, you can see how, like vultures chasing after ambulance from an accident scene. They've all gathered in the place of election petition. Billions will fly. I hear that INEC had 3 billion. The MBA say they want to do for free. The ones who want to share the 3 billion are saying it's not enough. All kinds of nonsense. Where are all those senior advocates that are lining up behind one election petition or the other on this subject of the Constitution that has been the source of all the problems, including the election that has gone bad? That not only for this round, from 2003 we saw it, 2007 we saw it, 11, 15, 19, and now 23. That Constitution is the reason everything is upside down. Any lawyer, senior advocate or professor, any lawyer who is not already on the front lines of taking down that Constitution is a part of the problem. And if that lawyer now turns up in the team of a petition, you are likely to see the same set of lawyers turning up when 29th of May comes and governors lose immunity. EFCC will jump out. Again, it will become a matter of billions to be carried around in litigation money and in bribe money, because that's where the two end. Whether it's a petition, people will be paid fees, but there will also be other monies being moved around to judges and tribunals. That's what the lawyers in Nigeria are interested in. All of those lawyers, the Nigerian Bar Association itself, executive after executive, we have engaged them on this subject, but they chose to sabotage it so that another election can come, so that they can go to do petition. They chose to sabotage it so that another May 29 will come, 4 years pass, they go and start sharing the loot from all of those. Ninas is saying, for Ninas, there's no difference between any of the three candidates. Yes, we can see, between the ones that are on the front lines, some, their garments are cleaner than the other people's garments. But for Ninas, the important thing is, by which constitution shall the winner govern? If it is that constitution, then they're the same, because it doesn't change anything. No matter how well intentioned you can't fetch water with basket. Anybody who doesn't understand that will bear the cost of ignorance down the road. We told the ones who were going. We did say when Peter Obi emerged as candidate, we said Peter Obi will win this election, but Labour Party will lose the election. Those who didn't understand what we were saying are now understanding it. He got more votes than all the other people put together in several locations. But has he been declared president? Or you think it is in that court that like antelopes that are going to win in the court of lions, where the lion is adjudicator and the opposite contender is a member of the lion family? Let's not waste the opportunity we have now. We have 2 months. We have 2 months to brace up and avoid the catastrophe that is racing towards us. Every other thing that might happen will just be a matter of, if we are lucky to have something else happen. But the one that doesn't require any further negotiation or consultation to happen by operation of law is that on that 29th of May, nobody is available to be sworn in amongst those who are going to contest the election. The sitting president continues in office. We stop here.